This fretboard radio sync jig is made of three main parts: the sled, to which the router is attached, the cradle, to which the fretboard is attached while being routed, and the box, which holds everything together. The sled moves the router along the length of the fretboard, while the cradle rotates the fretboard to be routed in the desired radius below. While there are other similar videos and jigs on YouTube, I found this one effective and simple to make. I started with a bunch of scrap MDF 19mm or 3/4 inch thick. I set a temporary workbench outside to minimize the amount of MDF dust in my shed. This stuff is nasty for your lungs. All the measurements for the parts that you need to cut are available in the file in the description box below the video. Pay attention to the measurements as they are for MDF sheets that are precisely 3/4 inch or 19mm thick. Your material may vary in thickness a little. These measurements are for making a 9.5 inches radius. The parts that needs to be longer if you're making a longer radius are marked in yellow. These are just the parts for making the box higher and the arms of the cradle longer. You'll see in a minute. I then began cutting the pieces on the circular saw. Clamping a straight piece of MDF to be used as a fence for the saw to slide against is a way to ensure a straight cut. If you have a table saw, this entire process is quicker. There are 5 edges that it's important to make very straight. These are the rails on the box and on the sled, and the support for the cradle shelf. I checked the parts for straightness and only 2 of them needed straightening. I straightened these edges with a router equipped with a template bit, using the factory edge of one MDF piece that I checked for straightness. After cutting and straightening everything, I started with assembling the cradle. The cradle is made of a shelf to which the fretboard is temporarily glued on, a brace on the bottom of the shelf to reduce its deflection under its own weight, and the 2 arms which set the radius of rotation. Make sure to drill and countersink the holes before driving the screws in. These arms will be trimmed to the right length later. If you make this jig for making a longer radius, these arms might need to be longer. This box is quite simple. It has 4 walls, a part in the middle to keep the long walls fixed in the same distance, and a set of rails for the router sled to slide on. This is roughly how these parts will work together. The rails are placed 1 inch or 25mm from the top edge of the box. The base is a thin sheet of MDF to allow for the router to plunge deep enough and not interfere with the rotating fretboard underneath. The router itself and the braces on the top that you see now on the bottom because it is upside down will reduce the amount of deflection on this thin sheet of MDF. The edges of the sled will slide on the rails of the box. I now assemble the spacer inside the box and the clamping spot for the jig. I mark the center lines on the cradle and the box. The radius of the fretboard will be the distance from the center of the pin on the axis to the highest point of the fretboard plank you are using. I'm using a fretboard glued on a 2-inch thick neck plank, so I'm taking that into account when marking for the axis of rotation. Add about 2 inches after the hole and trim the ends so the cradle can rotate freely without interference on the bottom. I used a smooth shaft bolt on both sides as an axle. You want a snug fit for the bolt. I drilled for the bolts in the right location on the arms. Drill for the axle on the box, but make it so that the top of the fretboard is shy of the top of the box, about 1/4 inch or 5 millimeters. Mark the center line on the sled and locate the router in the middle. Drill the hole for the router bit with a large Forstner bit. After everything is assembled, I lubricated the rails and sled with silicone-based grease. The fretboard is taped to the jig with double-sided tape. Alright, so this has been a very successful experiment. The fretboard is straight and it is well radiused. I'm very pleased with the results. I'm gonna be filming a full build of a full guitar from scratch, and I wanna know if there's demand for this kind of thing. So if you like it, just let me know by subscribing or clicking thumbs up on this video. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for watching.